Hello, my name is Shelley Diamond, and I'm Chair Emeritus of Out to Innovate. And I'm here to introduce you to Toby Santamaria, who is a 2020 Ben Barris Fellowship awardee. And Toby is a graduate student at Michigan State studying ecology and biogeochemistry. Sounds fascinating. So, Toby, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. So that was a really good introduction. So I'm Toby. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, but I'm doing my PhD here at Michigan State. So what I mean by I do ecology and terrestrial biogeochemistry is that I study the ways in which organisms interact with their environment to influence stuff like the carbon cycle or the water cycle or things like that. I have a specific focus on the carbon cycle because uh, the climate is warming due to the direct effect of humans and anthropogenic emissions like carbon dioxide and methane. So I'm trying to look at ways that we can kind of restore ecosystems that we've damaged so that, you know, they act productively for us. So they sequester carbon or they, provide other ecosystem services for us that we need as the planet like gets hotter and hotter. So right now at MSU, what I do is I am looking at how different native insect communities respond to prescribed burns. Because one of the things we don't know about prescribed burns is how it might change the way that organisms interact with their environment. So with decomposers, we don't know if the prescribed burn, how it really will affect them in terms of how they break down the carbon in the form of like fallen leaves or fallen trees. We don't really know how they'll respond after a burn or after repeated burns. Since actually the experimental site that I use, they've been doing prescribed burns for 10 years. So I kind of want to make sure that like, okay, we're doing a prescribed burn because we think it's the best way to restore this ecosystem. But is that really true for like all aspects of like what we would theoretically want the ecosystem to do? Because I don't think we would want to restore an ecosystem a certain way if it meant it started doing something not beneficial for us. So if it became a carbon source, like emitting carbon instead of a carbon sink, which would be drawing in carbon and storing it. So yeah, that's what I look at. So I collect earthworms and other native decomposers at my field sites in Jackson, Michigan. The nice thing about also having earthworms at my site is actually earthworms are non-native to Michigan. They're an invasive species. So not only do I get to look at how these invasive earthworms interact with native decomposers, but I can also see how these invasive earthworms are affected by prescribed burns. So would prescribed burns even be a good way to manage this like invasive earthworm population or not? And then once I figure out like, well, how is this insect or this native decomposer or earthworm community acting, I'm then going to do, using my Ben Bars funds, I'm then going to do some decomposition experiments to see like how fast this ecosystem processes the like detritus and litter that it makes. And the things that do that are the native decomposers, right? So I know who the decomposers are, and then like, are there differences between like these plots that we have burned for a decade or the versus the plots that we haven't burned at all that are like untouched. So that's what I do. And then I don't know, do you have other guiding questions I can answer?
Well, what is this fellowship meant to you?
um, well, this fellowship has been important in a lot of ways, to be honest. For one thing, it's kind of hard to get like funding for really like interdisciplinary work. Like people say all the time, like interdisciplinary work is the future. But when it comes to like funding agencies, it's like really hard to get like support specifically for something that is super interdisciplinary. So like for me, my committee has someone who does like fire ecology, someone who does restoration ecology, someone who's a specialist in plant insect interactions, and then someone who's a specialist in carbon cycling. Because those are all the things that like my research intersects. But when it comes to like writing proposals that then like are competitive in terms of like other people who submit to those same like grants, but they have research that's much more straightforward, or where like the themes are all really closely aligned with one another, it's really hard sometimes because I feel like I have to explain like a little bit about each field and then like justify why I'm like bringing these unique facets together. And so having the Ben Barres Fellowship has been great because it's paid for my summer research. And then the other thing is that I feel like for non-binary people like me, it's really hard to find support, like literally in any way in STEM. Like, I'm lucky that MSU is trying to be really good about understanding and providing opportunities for like gender diverse people. But at the same time, in terms of like actual actionable things like money or grants or support or even just like community support and outreach, like things are really lacking across like all areas of STEM. Like I only know that like other non-binary scientists exist because like of Twitter, because we found each other, right? Because otherwise like I'd have no idea. And like having this fellowship that's like specifically for us when so many other funding agencies overlook us is really special for me because it shows that like I'm valued as a scientist, specifically because of who I am. So that's been like really freeing to be like, yeah, I have this one organization that thinks I'm incredibly valid, even if like other orgs kind of overlook us because they don't really understand us.
We're very proud of you, and we are a legitimate professional society for STEM, and we would like you to stay in touch with us and work with us and be able to provide more of these kinds of fellowships and scholarships for people like you and like me. And we need to help each other and be a family. And that's how I look at it anyway. And we celebrate you, and we just wish you well. We know you're going to do really well. And your research is so important to the earth, and it's important to all of us. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing.
Thank you for supporting me. I'm going to cry.
Oh, don't cry.
I like cried when I got the notification that I got it. And then you actually gave me like a little bit more money than I thought I needed. But then I ended up having so many samples to analyze that it actually came in like just in handy.
Oh,
get like that $400 extra. So I was just like so relieved. Because otherwise it was like I'm gonna have to get like a job over the summer to pay for my research and to like be able to afford all my supplies. And then like this fellowship came through like in a way that like nothing else has.
Oh,
so it's been really great.
Wonderful. Well, we're very proud of you, and we wish you the best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.